Hello everyone and welcome to Happy Chat again. This week I have a great friend and a great pantomime dame, also a brilliant ugly sister comes to that. He's done the lot, he's fantastic. Will you please welcome pantomime aficionado, Mr. Nigel Ellacott. Hello Nigel.
Hello there Andy, good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. It'd be nice in the flesh one of these days, wouldn't it? But at the moment this is what we're able to do, and it's good to chat anyway. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. But I mean, actually, you and I were quite lucky because we got to do Panto this year, didn't we?
Yeah, not very many of us did that. How long did you manage to do Panto for?
I did a week's rehearsal.
Yeah.
And I did 10 shows, and then Boris closed us down. It was tier 3. So we were told that, you might be coming back, but we all cleared the dressing rooms. It was very sad. But we were very fortunate because the theatre, which is literally, if I look out of my back window, I can see the fly tower. So I live that close to it.
So travel wasn't really a problem. What's the name of the theatre, Nigel?
The Kenneth More Theatre.
The Kenneth More Theatre.
So it's a theatre that my brother was the manager there for years, and that's where I did my first Ugly Sister with Peter, in fact, back in the 80s. So they said, would you like to do a panto? And I said, well, it's a bit of a schlep, it's going to take me 3 minutes to walk. We did a week's rehearsal and then 10 shows, and then fortunately at the beginning of the year, the theatre had installed 5 cameras in the auditorium.
Right.
So they could do live streaming of any show, which is very useful because it's what's keeping them going at the moment as people are coming in and having their shows filmed, filmed live on stage. So we streamed ours for the first week to schools and groups. And then when we finished and the theatre was shut, they carried on streaming it until the end of February.
Wow, that's brilliant. And did they manage to recoup some monies there?
Yeah, I think they did. And it's never going to be the same because, of course, we were socially distanced in the seating. So yes, we were literally, if I say, you and I going out there at Plymouth Theatre Royal, that big full house, and you're going out there and there's like 60 people and that's all you're allowed.
All with masks on.
It's strange. All wearing masks. And of course I have to ask them their name to pick a boyfriend, and that's very difficult.
Yeah, of course it is. When I lost my hello boys and girls or whatever, ahoy there mates, I lost that. So this year I came out and said, every time I come out and see you, I'll probably give you a friendly little wave. And if you could give me back a friendly little wave. And it did work.
It works. We changed because we did a ghost gag, and suddenly, like in rehearsals, we're going, oh, wait a minute. If you saw a ghost, you had to stamp your feet. And if you really, really saw a ghost, you had to stamp your feet and clap your hands. So
the noise and the mayhem was still created, Nigel.
Yeah, and nobody took a blind bit of notice. They just all shouted.
Yeah. I had a gag. And I said we had to rewrite the script this year because of the situation, and some jokes have been changed forever. And I did why did the chicken cross the road? Because it felt the chicken behind was just too close. That right. And then I did knock knock, and the director Jonathan said we can't get them to say who's there. I thought, what am I going to do? So I thought I'll go knock knock, and I'll go to do the who's there myself, but if they jump in before me, I'll just let it lie. And it was knock knock, who's there? Amazon, I've left it on the step. That was the gag.
Or in some cases in the middle of the street.
Yes. So it still worked. And I think here's the story. I mean, most of the country was shut down, but Panto continued. There were so many streaming events of pantomime. I mean, you can't keep our genre down, can you? Because people crave it at Christmas, don't they?
And how lucky that the Palladium got to do a run. I mean, a fabulous, they had a royal premiere, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge there, the pantomime. They managed to do a proper panto, so that's brilliant. I mean, it will survive, of course it will.
Well, I think it's part of, and I've spoken to many people on these happy chats, and it's part of people's Christmases. It's in there with visits to family and buying presents and Christmas dinner. You can't take panto out. It's
except for when we're doing panto, of course, we don't do the buying presents, sending cards, and
no, we
Christmas
don't.
dinner. We're too busy doing 2 shows a day. Yeah, but yeah. I get your drift. Yeah,
yeah. Everyone else does it, but we, we're the ones that go straight through the middle and make sure that part of their Christmas that they need happens every day. And
I've had the strangest Christmas days. I've spent strange places usually with strange people.
You call them strange?
I think probably the worst. Oh, yeah. So the strangest Christmas, I think, was when Peter Robbins and I were in Darlington, and we were both sitting there in this big dining room, just him and me. All around us are families and people pulling crackers, and there's these 2 miserable, ugly sisters. They'd been with each other in the dressing room every single day. They've shared digs together. They're in the hotel together, and now they're sitting there at Christmas dinner. And out of the corner of my eye, I just said to Peter, "Oh no, please don't, no. Here comes Santa." And Santa's going around all the tables, entertaining the children, and we're just going, just go away, please, just go away.
Not full of the Christmas spirit, then.
You know what it's like. I pick on a man in the audience. I have done ever since I've done panto. I pick on him. If I was in the audience and someone picked on me, I'd be mortified. I'd hate it.
Me too.
It's weird, isn't it? It's something and Santa jollying Peter and me up in Darlington was no, it wasn't good.
So Peter was your first sort of ugly dame partner, really, and you were together since the early 80s and until we lost Peter. How long and how many pantomimes did you do with him?
I did 28 pantos with Peter.
Wow.
In addition to which he and I did touring kids shows together. So we were like, if you were doing Pinocchio, we were the Fox and the Cat, Hansel and Gretel, all those different shows. We teamed. Oh, and Wind in the Willows. We toured that for over 2.5 years. So we were always working together. And this is strange. Peter died on the 31st of March, 2006. I want to say, was it 6 or 9? It was 12 years ago.
Wow.
31st of March. And I went on Facebook this morning, and there was a little thing about. We're proud to announce that the Muppet Christmas Carol will be presented at Nottingham Theatre Royal over Christmas with a full orchestra. And I just thought, booking opens the 31st of March. Now, Peter was a puppeteer on that film. It was one of the proudest things he'd ever done.
Wow.
And I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, he would have loved to have gone to the Theatre Royal in Nottingham and seen his movie with the Muppets with a full orchestra, and it's opening bookings on the very day he died. I thought, well, that's the
universe talking.
Yeah, it was.
So that's Theatre Royal Nottingham. So they're not doing panto per se this year.
No, they are. They're doing the Muppet thing is in the big concert hall.
Gotcha. That's where I saw Doddy, yeah.
We were doing a show, literally. I remember coming out of the theatre, and it was 10 to 10 when I got out the theatre, and I saw some audience members drifting past, and I said, was it good? And they said, oh no, we're in the interval.
I sat there And I honestly, I've never seen anything like it in my life before. And the lovely Brian Burton, who you see.
Oh, Brian, love him.
Yeah, he introduced me to Ken because his dad, Albert Burton, gave Ken his first professional engagement.
Really? Now, I can put a little insert here if you'd like to hold for just 2 seconds. Yes. I'm just going to leave you and I shall return.
Right.
One moment. Hello.
Hi there. Queen of Hearts. Yeah, tell us about it.
There you go.
Albert Burton. Wow. Yep. That's fantastic. And who else we got on the bill there?
Well, the two brothers, they've got Dave and Joe O'Gorman.
Yeah, did they play the Uglies?
Very popular. No, they did actually do that, but mostly they were like brokers' men. You've got Albert Burton, of course. Clarkson Rose was the dame.
Right. Clarkson Rose was a great name.
He was amazing. He had a show called, I think it was called Twinkle, and it was a summer season show for years. And this one was at the Knave of Hearts is played by Albert. This was at the Lyceum in the Strand, which is where the Lion King is now.
So what year was that then, Nigel?
About 1930. You've caught me on the hop now. There's no date on it. I'm going to stab a guess at about 1937.
Right. And was that a pantomime per se, or just like a presentation of different entertainers with a pantomime feel? Because
no,
it wasn't always pantomime.
No, it was a pantomime. And the Queen of Hearts, I think the last time the Queen of Hearts was done was something like in the late 50s. Nobody even knows what the story is anymore.
No, but what a wonderful segue, because I went on your website today. It's behind you. And am I wrong in saying that you were about the first pantomime website out there, weren't you?
Yeah, when I very first started to get onto the internet and started Googling, because Peter Robbins was more technical than I was. And he said, you've got to do this internet thing. I looked up pantomime. I typed in pantomime and I got the Little Haddon Players pantomime. And they had a website and it had photographs. And I thought, and there was virtually nothing else. And so we're talking about it was 21 years ago.
You can't move from now, Nigel. You started a trend.
You're tripping over them.
I know, but yours, if I may say, is still the best, because if you want to know the story of any panto theme, it's there. If you want to get a script, hire a script, buy a script, it's there. If you want to hire costumes, it's everything you need to get a pantomime off the ground. If you go to your website, it's all there.
And also, I specialize in doing incredibly long items and pieces. So I've just done Stanley Baxter's pantos. All the many pantos that Stanley Baxter did, mostly in Scotland. Then, it's things like that. You could have big, long articles. I'm pleased with it. I really am.
Stanley Baxter, he was absolute genius, that guy. I don't know if he was appreciated as much as some of the other stars of the day, but he was really good, wasn't he? And his impressions were great as well.
Oh, phenomenal pantomime. And the costumes. When Stanley did his show, I could remember years ago, because I've costumed pantos over the years, probably for about 38 years. So usually around about August, you're there buying trimmings, buying fabrics, things like that. And I used to run into Terry Parsons, the designer who did all of Stanley's pantos. And whereas I'd have a couple of wire baskets full of trimmings, Terry would have a big supermarket shopping trolley filled to the top. And I remember saying to him, wow, that must be a lot of money. He said, my budget's now, this was many, many, many years ago. And his budget for Stanley's Mother Goose was, I think it was not far off £1 million then. And Stanley Baxter's finale, I remember at the time, he said to me, "Oh, it's 125,000 for the finale." And I went, "Well, everybody?" Went, "No, Stanley." It's just like, yeah.
But when I worked with Barbara at the Bristol Hippodrome, that was a Terry Parsons set.
Was beautiful set, and a lovely costume that Barbara wore. Sherry Hewson's been wearing it in Pantos with me now, and it's lovely to keep those bits of history.
Is it?
I was wearing, and in our show, Sherry was wearing a dress that Barbara had made for her, and I was wearing a dress that Danny LaRue had made for him, and it's passing on those bits of history.
Wow, well, that you actually touch the same fabric that they. Well, that's just great.
But it's what we do in this business. In our business, we pass on what we do to the generations that are following. Because if you think about it, all those front gags, those front cloth gags you and I have done together, well, they have their basis in variety, 1930s kind of front. You know, we're just passing on something. And we recycle.
The joy of pantomime is that those routines, we're able to update and keep them relevant to the generation that are coming and used to speaking to their granny and grandma on the telephone. We're keeping those traditional things relevant to the kids to make sure they keep coming back, because if the kids come back, they come back with their own children one day.
Of course. I mean, there's that funny gap. The children go to the panto till they're about 11. Then it's not cool. It's not cool then. And then the next time you see them, they're bringing their 3-4-year-olds. And it's a cycle that will always go on. And it's our job just to pass on history, traditions, to just make sure that people are following the basic skeleton of a panto, what it is. It's got to have a story. It's got to have a fairy story. It's got to have good and bad. It's all these date back to the 18th century, but it's our job to keep them fresh, keep them new, and get a new audience every single year.
And I don't know if many other genres work as hard at keeping their product together as we do, because it's done from love. I mean, the panto people I speak to on this program, and myself, I mean, we're so, and you, of course, we're so passionate about it, and it's not pretend. We ain't doing it to make a fortune, because doing all the websites and all that. I mean, I do all these shows every week. No money. That's not what it's done, because I love my business. I particularly love pantomime, and I get a lot of people, and I'm sure you get this, Nigel, contacting me, asking me to give them advice on panto, and I put on today on Facebook a video of myself and Adrian Varco from Bristol. The wonderful Adrian.
We talked about Adrian, yes.
Just a wonderful comedian. Yeah. And I put this video on today because that's where I learned my trade, and I want people to see what I was doing when I started off. Have you got any recordings of you doing some of your early stuff?
I wish I had kept, actually I don't, because I'd cringe, but I wish I'd kept an appearance with Adrian Varco on HTV, Harlech Television. We filmed it in Bristol, I think it was. HTV, filmed in Bristol, and it was a really weird quiz program called Cuckoo in the Nest.
Wow. And you were on as Panto Danes?
It was one of my early things, dressed up as a lady, with Adrian Varco dressed up as a lady, and a real lady dressed up as a lady. And the panel had to guess which one was a professional female impersonator. And I was so young, it wouldn't have taken 30 seconds to go, I'm sorry, he's still at school. Adrian was the perfectionist, and he was spotted straight away.
How lovely was he to you? Because he was one of the nicest men that I've
lovely man.
you know.
I'm thinking back, it must have been something like 1970. I'm going to say it was probably 1972. I was age 3. It was remarkable how I managed to even sit on the seat, you know, at 3 years old. But
well, fantastic. But it was wonderful. And without Adrian, I wouldn't be doing the pantomimes I'm doing today.
I have an Adrian, and my Adrian is a panto dame that you may have worked with or come across, Freddie Lees. Freddie was an actor who did lots of West End shows and Chitty Bang Bang, Oliver, all those sort of things in the West End. He did rep at my hometown in Swansea, and he was our pantomime dame very regularly, almost, you know, every other year or every year it would be Freddie. Became a big friend of mine, and he's the reason why I do what I do, because at the age of 10 or 11, sitting there watching rehearsals and watching him and thinking, oh my goodness, you know, you're funny. And the reason Freddie was so good was that he was still. Everybody else is running about and rushing about, and Freddie just stood there and delivered the gags. And I thought, oh, and you know, even at that age, you just go, oh, that's why you're funny. And it's something I learned from him. I don't rush about.
Well, I think that's why you and I worked so well together, if I'm bold enough to say that, but I think we did work well together. And that's because I was the freneticism and you were the stability, and that's how it worked for us.
And it was also good because we could both put our Zimmer frames into the wings and lean on them in between entrances. It's, you know, it's a kind of...
we are. But
it's a bond.
Isn't it ironic that we are now the equivalent of Freddie Lees, because people are coming to us and asking our advice, and I will never not give advice to people, because I benefited so much from that when I was starting off in panto.
And also we get what we do in the theatre, not just in panto, but we get a lot of what we get, our knowledge is from watching, from being in the wings and watching. Okay, you know, training's good and drama schools are good and all that, and I don't regret my 3 years or whatever, but standing in the wing and watching a pro and seeing how it's done. I was watching Talking Pictures last night on the television, because I like talking pictures, and it was Sunday night at the London Palladium, and Bob Monkhouse was on, and you just, I mean, mastery of comedy, a complete masterclass of how to do comedy.
Knew his product inside out. Knew
just
what
perfection
suited him. But you're like that with your dame. You know exactly. I'm a little bit like that with Andy Ford. I know what Andy Ford can do and can't do. You know your product, and it's important not to do stuff just because it's suggested to you. You take it if you like it, and you find the way that you can mold it into your very own persona. Yeah. Yes.
We don't really need an opening written for us. All we need to know is who your son is, who your daughter is, whether you're going into a laundry or up a beanstalk. But we put our own, that's why we're there. We put our own personality into the part.
I'd like to say that's why we're booked, really, because we offer
it's because we're cheap. No, it's because we're cheap. Has nobody said that to you, Andy?
Don't think I will edit that line out.
Oh, what a shame.
But the thing is, you love this, and it's not only when people ring you up and say, Nigel, what do you think I got this week? Blah, blah, blah. You take a roadshow, a pantomime roadshow, out on the road to schools and stuff, and I believe you dress one of the teachers up as a pantomime dame and talk about the history. How fantastic is that, to keep it alive in schools? Because, like we say, they're the future generation of panto goers. So how long have you been doing the roadshow?
The pantomime roadshow started with Cadbury's, and Paul Elliott, who ran E&B Productions, one of the big... You know, the king of panto. Paul came to Peter and me and said, we'd like you to do something in the foyer of a theatre. for Cadbury's, dressed as the Ugly Sisters. So we said, okay, sort of like what? And he said, oh, I don't know, think of something. You know, and people come in to book tickets and we'll do a bit of, I don't know. And I had a little think, and I came back and I said, what if we took a show to the schools, which is the Cadbury Pantomime Roadshow.
In the area of the panto.
In the area of the panto. And we tell the kids all about the local panto, but we also tell them about the history of panto.
Wow.
He said, okay. And I can remember we took it round for a couple of weeks, and then we invited Peter Todd, who was the boss of the Hippodrome at Birmingham, and Paul to come and see it at Bourneville, of course, the home of Cadbury's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember them sitting uncomfortably at the back while we got everybody singing the Happy Wanderer. It was a magic moment. So I think the Pantomime Roadshow was started, I'm going to say 28 years ago, at least.
And it still goes out now?
Yeah, this year, curiously, over the next 3 weekends that we're in, last weekend, this weekend, and the next one, I'm doing, in my front room, so to speak, I'm doing a sort of roadshow, which is being part of Venue Cymru's Take Part. So I'm telling the kids about things about pantomime, dressed as a panto dame.
What, is this in schools, Nigel?
No, it will go to any of the people who subscribe to Venue Cymru's websites. So it's Take Part is a massive undertaking at Venue Cymru for children. And when I was there last year, physically, we played to over 11,000 people came in and went out during 2 days, taking part in different activities.
Wow.
So this year, we're taking it to them instead, so they see it on the internet.
Well, I know because my wife's show worked at Theatre Cymru and it mowed for quite a few years and did tours and stuff. And I know theatre is very, very strongly followed in Wales, isn't it?
And it's strange that Venue Cymru now, which is a massive auditorium and also a huge arena, it became a rainbow hospital at the beginning of the COVID outbreak. So the whole place was converted into a hospital, which thankfully was not called upon. Like Excel in London, they didn't use it. But now it's a massive vaccination centre. So it's Llandudno.
Llandudno. And of course, were you in Llandudno the year before last with Sherry in pantomime?
Yeah, we did Sleeping Beauty there.
Fantastic.
And the year before I was with you in Plymouth.
In Plymouth with the lovely Sam and John Partridge, and we did Dick Whittington.
We did.
I loved our routines. What was it? We had that little disability scooter that I had to go off on and you came in on. Anyway, to try and explain it would make no sense. But I had the loveliest of times. And you were such a joy to work with because you've done so many of these. And I just turn up and I'm thinking, you know, is he going to like the comedy? Does it matter if he does or doesn't? And because I always get nervous about working with people that have done it longer than me. You know, I was like that with Les Dennis this year, but he was absolutely lovely. And you were lovely as well. And it just sort of gelled. I mean, you were very good a couple of times. I get carried away like I'm doing now.
It's very good a couple of times.
And you said to me, could you give me a couple of hodes there on the end of that gag? Because I'm first in a gut to get my gag out. So, and thank you for that, because I've been doing it for that many years, but you still need someone to look at it from another angle, don't you?
Oh, it is strange. It's a funny world of where variety became pantomime, and variety acts were used to just coming on and doing their act, and then you had to put a panto around it. And nowadays that's changed because the variety act has to encompass the panto. I've got programs over there in my cupboard of people like Vera Lynn doing pantomime who just walk on in the middle of the woods, sing 3 numbers, and exit. And, you know, those days sadly have gone. Yeah, that's all she did. She turned up in a car, didn't even have a costume, just wore her own frock.
But the thing is, because variety hasn't got as many outlets as it used to have, there are not so many people that just, you know, cut and paste their act and put it on the show now. There are people coming from television and other genres who have to sit down with their new script and actually ask us why they're there and how this works. So it's gone quite a full circle, hasn't it, Pantomime?
Yeah, and sometimes you say you're there to put the bums on the seats.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, you know, when you have, sometimes you do panto with, it's remarkable, really. I mean, you think, oh dear, we're doing pantomimes, and it was the era of the Australian soap star. And you thought, oh, this is, you know, what's this going to be like? And every single person I worked with, from Neighbours or Home and Away, was stunning. Stephen Dennis was just brilliant. He knew comedy, he knew music. Ray Marr, just the most superb panto person you can imagine. So, yeah, just amazing. So good at what he did. Andy's the veteran of something like, I think, about 15 pantos. So, you know, we all encompass what there is what you work with.
We bring what we've learned and what we've done with us to pantomime, and it's great because you don't really know until you get there how you're going to hone it, because the shape of what you do has to work with the people that are performing with you. So you can't just go carte blanche and say, that's what I'm doing, because you might have to just change the delivery slightly to make sure that the person with you gets the most out of it as well. It's a genre that makes you not big-headed. You can't go in there owning the world, because panto will bite you on the bum.
Yes, and we're very lucky, you and I, that we've never worked with anybody big-headed in panto at all. We've been so lucky.
Cut. Yeah, they're there, but the thing is, the lucky thing about panto is, you know, even if occasionally you work with someone that's not generous and encouraging, when you get that situation, there's always someone else in the show that you can work with and bring out your inner happiness. So
I think if the public knew that we literally have about, in reality, 6 days to put a panto on, and then the rest of it is technical. So you get a 10 days rehearsal, but 4 of it is spent mainly for the lights, the sound, the musicians, all that. Yeah. We only have 6 days in which to work together with people. And because we're weird panto people, we start off with a bunch of strangers on the Monday. By the time we've opened and we've had a company meal, we're family. It is the strangest thing.
And that was the bizarre thing about this year. We couldn't do that bonding. I literally was digs, taxi, theatre. That was it. No going out.
How have you given up? You don't do the bus anymore. I would have thought, see,
I got the expenses, Nigel. I was so lucky.
Right.
But yeah, you're right.
I mean, you know,
the bonding part of panto is great, because I think an audience can see through tension unless you're really, really, really clever and you can cover it up. When you and I worked together, I think that the people knew we liked each other. And
we're having fun.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Well, people don't buy a ticket for pantomime, because I mean that's the great thing about it. It's so different from other things. When you're doing a comedy show, if it's actually under your name and people are booked to go and see you, yeah, that's different. But if you do a comedy show, you feel like you have to earn your stripes. When you go out on stage, you and I go out on stage on panto, it's like the audience are just going, we've been waiting for you. It's a completely different feel.
Yeah. They look forward to all the different the children like they like booing the baddie and they like the action scenes. Some of the audience like the music and the songs, and other people, they love the comedy. That's why Panto works, because really there's something in it for everybody.
It's one product, but it's a stand-up comedy show. It's a musical. It's everything's there for the one ticket price. Hey, we're selling, aren't we? For the price of one ticket.
Yeah, and also it's funny. I wrote something for the theatre guide a couple of years ago, and it was a piece about students leaving college and pantomime. And in this piece, I was saying, well, look, the thing is, the first job you're going to get when you leave drama school or when you leave your stage school, it's going to probably be pantomime. Yeah. And you've got to know that you're going to be typecast. And it's the only part of theatre where seriously typecasting is important, because in my day and your day, we're talking back in the days when girls played boys.
Yes.
If you were a tall girl with a good voice, you played principal boy. If you were a shorter girl with a good voice, you were principal girl. If you were a slightly older lady, you would be the fairy. Older character actors would be the baddies. And of course, the singing sensation of the day, as we changed from girls to boys playing the part of boys, pop stars took over. Hello, Cliff Richard, principal boy, Frank Ifield, Engelbert Humperdinck. It's typecasting, and it still is today, because you and I could no more go on and play Prince Charming.
Well, to be honest, I'm quite offended at that.
Even in the day, I can't sing to save my life, and I can't dance. So I'm not going to be Prince Charming. I'm not going to be Dandini. I've got to find something else to do. We are typecast. So,
Mr. Pantomime Expert, years ago, for a time, all the headlines in newspapers were, "Where's your career? It's behind you. Fading star, goes to pantomime." But it's not like that now. So how is it, because we just bashed through it and kept going, that we got the respect back for Panto? Or what do you think happened? Because Panto, it fills the Palladium at Christmas with massive great stars. It's not the poor man's entertainment anymore, is it?
I think you've literally answered your question. It's not us. We're doing what we've always done, and we haven't done it any differently. I haven't done anything. God, I haven't done any new jokes since 1972, I think. But the people responsible for I can't even say the word respectabilizing. Is that such a word? Respectabilizing? Anyway, making Panto respectable.
No.
Look it up, Google it. Respectabilizing. The people responsible for that, for upgrading Pantos, it's the producers. They are the people who've done it, because they have moved on. The likes of Paul Ellacott took pantomimes into a high perspective. They became quite classy shows. Nick Thomas did the same. Michael Harrison comes along. And Michael Harrison isn't scared he's the head of Kudos, for those who don't know it. He's not scared to start playing around with the genre now and putting in subjects that haven't been seen for years. Humpty Dumpty, that disappeared. Goldilocks. And he's not afraid to mix them.
But it's done from a lovely place, because he adores pantomime. And he brings his son along to watch it and sees the magic in his eyes when he sees panto. So it's not like a businessman has come in and gone, "I can make a fair bit of money if I put it on there, and we'll pay them less." He wants. I think his reward is financially is seeing panto work.
Yes, and also putting it into a different setting. So, I mean, when you go to the Palladium, obviously you're now seeing the top, but to be fair, when you went to the Palladium in the 1960s and 70s, you still saw the top as it was of the day. So I can remember going and seeing Danny LaRue in Aladdin. You'd go and see Barbara Windsor and Babes in the Wood. Michael has taken those traditions and upgraded them, polished them until they shine like the top of the Chrysler Tower.
Yeah.
And And also, yes, the ticket prices are high, but they should be. You're looking at a cast that staggers the imagination. I mean, all those names, all those people, top of their profession. I have great admiration, and I think it is the producers, because all the producers we've mentioned, they were performers. Paul Elliott started off as an actor. He and Peter Byrne went into production and called it E and B, Elliott and Byrne. That was his Pantomime Kingdom. Yeah. Nick Thomas, he was a performer. Nick was a puppeteer. John Conway was a comedian. By the time you get, and Michael Harrison too, Michael did, I can remember Michael asking me about costumes for a panto, when he did his very first Dame, and I think he did 2 Dames. They know their business. They're not in it for the business.
They care about it. I mean, if you stop caring about panto, it goes away. So that's why it's incumbent on us to keep caring and bringing more people into the fold. And anyone watching this tonight that loves panto, get involved. Even if you start off at Amdram, get involved, and then
perfect. Yeah,
keep it alive. So what is your greatest experience of performing panto? What's the moment when you think of your whole career that you look back and go, I did that?
I think it might have been meeting Andy Ford in a rehearsal room in Alford House. Down Saturday.
Anything?
Oh, apart from that, I always, because when I do the roadshow, kids always say to you, what's the best one you've ever done? And I usually say the Birmingham Hippodrome.
Yeah.
Because to me, it is one of the finest panto. Well, it is to me the finest panto place in Britain, because I've never done the Palladium, but I think Birmingham Hippodrome pantomime, it was Cinderella. It was the second time we'd been there, so Peter and I were very much more relaxed about it. It was a brand new building. The theatre had just been reopened, and we did Cinderella with a cast that was stunning. But the thing that I most remember was Peter and I would normally, we do the ticket tearing, head off the wings, and as we used to get through the stage door, the pass door, Peter would always say, every single time, as if it was new, kettle on Doris.
Kettle on Doris.
Kettle on Doris, and head up to the dressing room to put the kettle on. And that's where we would be. So all that thing about Cinderella, the coach, the ponies, we're having a cup of tea. That's our break. With whoever else isn't in the scene. And I can only remember very few occasions when we literally tore the tickets and then went in the wing, got a seat, sat down and watched. And we didn't go for the tea. Now, that's a big thing. The 2 occasions were Dame Hilda Brackett, lovely actor Patrick Fife.
Yeah.
He played the fairy godmother. We did several pantos together, but to me, I think it was Bournemouth Pavilion was the one. It was beyond magic. Every night it was different. It was clever. Patrick worked on it all day, changed it, made it funny. It was every day was like watching a piece of sheer magic.
Right.
But it was real.
Engine Bracket. Is this after one of them had left us? Yeah.
Yeah, it was when they had a little brief hiatus, and literally Patrick was real. I mean, Dame Hilda was real. The audience, some of them thought it was a real glow lady.
Oh, it's a brilliant.
And then we'd literally sit there every single show and go, whoa. And the other time I did that was when we did Birmingham Hippodrome, and we left the stage, and instead of having to change, we sat down and an ice rink appeared, and all these children dressed as animals. Snow came down, the most amazing lighting effects, and in skated Robin Cousins, Olympic skater, as Dandini, and did it. And you just go, magic, this is, I'm in it, and I'd pay to see it.
Yeah.
So I think those are the 2 moments that have grabbed me the most in 47 years.
Wow, and Panto's getting more and more. I mean, the Bristol Hippodrome that I've been lucky enough to perform at for seven times in Panto, when it opened, the first night that theatre opened, the spectacle has always been there because there was like a swimming pool on stage and a horse swam across and got out the other side. That was their opening night. So the spectacle has always been there. And of course, now with technology as it is and the fantastic twins effects, some of the spectacular is beyond your imagination now, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, at the Palladium, when I was seeing Danny in Aladdin,
yeah,
at the end of, I'm not quite sure why Danny got in a rocket and flew. I don't know why. Who knows? But it was very spectacular. And he got in a rocket and it kind of tilted and flame shot out the back and the tabs bounced and that to me then was an amazing effect. But when you go to the Palladium now and you see the twins effects where a double-decker bus flies over the audience's head, driven by one of the cars, you just, I don't know how far you can go. The new scenery that's been introduced now, it was originally at the Ashcroft, the concert hall. Yeah, and most of it was projected, but in a wonderful. It's an amazing. Panto is really evolving. It's really one jump ahead of us.
But the essence of Panto never changes, because when we did Panto in Plymouth this year with limited amount of people and 6 foot apart and all that lot, the magic was still there. In the most ridiculous situation, the magic was still there. So yeah, we pour on all these special effects and we appreciate them, and it makes our product even better. But the simple story of a fairy tale told on stage with music and dancing to an audience that are in a Christmas mood, isn't that just the essence of it? If you look at the name of my website, yeah,
right, it's behindyou.com. To me, I chose those words because it is the essence of, no matter all the effects you put in and all the big casts and the big names and the fabulous costumes, but when you boil down to it, nothing will ever match the effect of thousands of children screaming at a person wearing a white sheet going woo woo.
Technology.
The more we don't see it, the more frustrated those children get. Why can't you see it? We can see that. To me, is it. That is the heart of Panto.
Bottle that.
That's it. I mean, it's the children completely lose their disbelief, and it was the same when Peter and I did ticket tearing. It's such a difficult thing when you're ugly sisters. You want them to laugh at you. You don't want them to boo all the time because it kills the punchlines.
Yeah.
So yeah, we mastered that, but we always knew that when it came to tearing the tickets, that one moment had to be real. And when it was real, and it was Paul Elliott who said to us, he said, don't move an inch. I want the audience to stare at her. Then I want them to stare at her looking at you, back at the ticket, and you say, tear it up.
Very powerful, wasn't it?
Oh, the reaction from the audience. And it took me years to work out. That was in Act 1. We'd go and have a cup of tea, kettle on Doris, etc. 20 minutes later, go back on the stage again, get ready, come down in the ballroom in fabulous costumes and be booed, completely booed. And I always thought, why? But of course, the audience, they didn't have an interval to forget that they hated us. They literally kept that hatred And the second they saw us in the ballroom.
Well, you're responsible for all the struggles that they kept seeing Cinderella go through after you left the stage.
It's real. It's real.
You're still there, aren't you?
Yeah. Don't mess about with the reality of the fairy story, because when all's said and done, that is what the kids react to. It's the reality of the underdog. Buttons is an underdog. Cinderella's an underdog. They're surrounded usually by bullies. It's all the things that kids go through in their own school lives. And there it is. She comes out tops.
Yeah. And you know, and you love Buttons, and you're sad that he's not going to get Cinderella, but the audience see the big story, but they still love him because, I mean, it is the best role for any comedian ever. I just adore Buttons. Let me quickly tell you this story that Brian told me. I don't know if I've told you this before. He was at Windsor, in the theatre in Windsor. He did it many years as Dane. Yes. And they were doing It's Behind You thing. And the audience was shouting, "It's behind you." Well, no, there's nothing there. "It's behind you." "Are you sure?" And then this very posh couple that were probably financially all right, this older lady said to her child, when it's like, "It's behind you." "No, there's nothing there." She said, "Well, there's no point in telling this man. He's obviously an idiot." Isn't that beautiful? It's great when the kids think that, but when some of the adults do as well.
So another reason I put the website on in the first place is that I think we all should know who came before us. So if you're into panto and you love watching panto and you love doing panto, you should know who did it before you, who trod those boards, who prepared the scene for us to carry on and do it.
Why we're able to still be able to do this is because of the people that came before. I mean, that happens in many walks of life, but in panto, that's essential. I mean, it started, I've learned so much doing these things with the Comedy dell'arte, and it changed during Shakespeare's time and blah, blah, blah. And the funniest thing about it is someone gave me a lovely book on panto this year when I was backstage. And in 18, whatever it was, someone was talking about pantomime and saying, well, pantomime's not what it was. They keep changing it. It's not the same. And anyone that still says that panto was not what it used to be, that's the whole point. Panto,
you've got it. It was
relevant.
In a panto, when the prince and the principal girl are given lots of funny bits together all the time, and you think, hang on a minute, it's not written that way. You are representing all those little girls who are the princess and the love story and the fact that magic can happen. If you start interfering and messing about with it,
and that's what I say to people: know what your job is within the pantomime structure. Know why you're there. If you're a story, I mean, don't feel, oh, I've got to do story. Be proud to do the story. You know, sell the story for all you're worth, because that's what makes everything else work. And we've all got different jobs. That's the other thing about pantomime that people don't realize if you haven't done it before. There's a very strong discipline involved.
Oh, absolutely. I think because, like, when you watch the masters at work, the Brian Connollys, who have rehearsed, Brian looks as though he's making it up.
Now he knows what he's doing.
Moment. And nobody rehearses harder than Brian. Brian is to the letter, to the ding, to the very consonant. That's Brian, but the magic is to make it look like he's making it up, and that's the discipline. It is a remarkably intricate. I want to call it an art form because it is an art form.
Oh, completely.
It's because we're so lucky to have so many people who do it.
Yeah.
They just, and not only do it, they get it.
So look, we throw our pantomime doors open to the future generations. Come and watch us. Not necessarily just you and me. Come and watch pantomime performers now and fall in love with it, because when you fall in love with it, you want to do it. And when you do it, you'll keep this alive. It's a living, breathing thing, is pantomime. And we have to look after it.
Do you know what? We need a recruitment, like we need a recruitment officer. It could be you, Andy. In the old days, your comics, your Buttonses, your Jacks, your Idle Jacks, they all came from the world of variety. Then when variety started to fade out, they came from the world of television. Yeah. It's that's where they come from. And of course, throughout it all, let's not forget Butlins, because the holiday camps were the breeding ground of the panto comedian. These are starting to vanish. We need the new generation of Buttonses, Idle Jacks. We need those people. Simple Simons. Where are they coming from?
I could talk to you all day. Thank you for being a happy chat and sharing. And I hope, because we're so indulgent with what we love, we haven't bored people. I'm sure people that want to get into this will find it interesting. I did, because every time you speak to me, I have to listen, because you make so much sense. So thank you for joining me on the Happy Chat, and we'll talk again very soon. And I hope we'll both be playing to full house this year in pantomime.
Yes. Take care.
I love you. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.